Show. I am your host, Stephen Ray. And on today's episode, we're going to have a very special guest of Preston Guy, who is an LSU beat writer for TigerBait.com. He's going to stop by and talk to us about the LSU Tigers. We're also going to have our special interview with Coach Hugh. So once again, this is the Stingray Show. We're also going to talk about the big matchups in Week 5 and Week 2 of the SEC. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you guys primed and ready for Week 5 of college football right here on the Stingray Show.
Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game. What a play. Wow.
What's going on, guys? This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, and welcome into another exciting edition of the Stingray Show. And we're actually going to have Coach Freeze on here in just a little bit, but let me go ahead and pop up my co-host with me today, Heath Hopkins. Heath, how's it going, buddy?
Going all right, Stingray. How about you?
I'm doing good. Listen, I do actually have something I would like to overlay on the screen here, and I would like to get your thoughts on this right here. Now, this is somebody sent me this. They actually made it and sent it to me a few years back when I was originally doing the first Stingray Show. So what do you think about us using this logo as our official Stingray Show logo? I actually like that. I mean, it's me. It's supposed to be me riding on an actual stingray. I think that goes very well with the show, don't you?
I'm mistaken. I had you mistaken as Aquaman there, Stingray.
Yes.
I'm impressed.
So, are you okay with using that?
Absolutely use it.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, I'm going to pop that up in the corner of the screen up there. Okay, so let me ask you this. I personally cannot get used to, and I'm sure you can't either, of, okay, it's Week 5, but Week 2 of the SEC.
Yeah.
Dude, that's just strange to me.
Yeah. I still consider it Week 2.
Yes.
Hey, if it's not SEC football, is it really football?
I know. Well, I don't know, because some of those, Week 1 of the Big 12 was pretty interesting when, we had Iowa State and Kansas State both get upset by Sunbelt teams. That was pretty interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, let's pick on the Big 12. I mean, they're more like the medium-sized 12 or the small 12 of
right.
What they did in preseason. So,
right.
Yeah, SEC football Week 2, everybody else Week whatever. I'm okay with it.
By the way, I do also need to mention for any NFL fans out there, now, of course, we're not an NFL show. We're college-based. But for the NFL fans out there, the Steelers-Titans game has been canceled or postponed due to the Titans actually having COVID, and the Titans shut everything down this week. So what are your thoughts about them postponing that game?
There's a reason for it. The virus is serious, as we know,
Yeah.
as we heard the news out of the White House. People are dealing with this. Schools are dealing with this. Professional teams are dealing with this. Individuals are dealing with this. Lord knows the doctor's offices are dealing with this. So, is the virus serious? Yes. Should we be safe? Sure. But with that, I'm tired of talking about COVID. I'm ready to talk about football.
Absolutely. And somebody said needs some better Wi-Fi. Still love you guys, and I agree with that. And we're actually going to work on that moving forward.
So it's kind of you're a little blurry sometimes, Stephen. I'm trying to get you into focus.
Yes. So we're going to work on that. But anyway. What are your thoughts about Week 5? Looking ahead.
Well, we're going to see if some teams are for real. We're going to see if teams continue to struggle. I expect to see some offenses that struggled last week to struggle again this week. Same for defenses that had problems last week. I don't expect them to figure everything out in 1 week's time. But the sooner you do, the more successful those teams will be.
Yes. What are your thoughts about Mississippi State coming up? They got a test with Arkansas.
I believe old Coach Sam tipped his hand up there on the hill with the Razorbacks. He complimented Colin Hill and talked about things. You had a quarterback set the all-time SEC record in passing, and he's talking about Colin Hill. So I got a feeling they're going to take away the big play. Arkansas is going to try to take away the big play and give Mississippi State everything underneath, and that means Colin Hill all day.
I agree with that. And, Mississippi State needs to be more balanced, though, just simply because they only had 9 rushing yards last week against LSU.
I used to buy into the concept of balanced offense. Dan Mullen's hugely successful running a balanced offense still to this day. I don't think it's the wrong thing to do. But at the end of the day, yards are yards. If I told you your team had close to 700 total yards in a game, I think anybody would take that. And then you find out that 630 whatever, 50 whatever are passing and just a few are rushing. And then you're like, well, hang on a second. Hey, yards are yards.
Yes. Let me go ahead and pop this up here on the screen. Opinions on number 7 Auburn at number 4 Georgia. We're actually going to pick that game a little bit later on, but I was not impressed at all by the offensive performance by Georgia last week against Arkansas. So we're going to find out, what Georgia really has. Now, their defense is actually really, really good, and it could be the best defense that Kirby Smart has ever coached. But as far as the offense, it's still a work in progress, definitely. Now, the JT Daniels has been actually cleared to play for this game, but he has not played in quite a while in a live game situation, so he may actually be a little bit rusty going into this football game.
Everybody for Georgia, they're hoping JT spells TD. Will it? I don't know. Georgia, I'm not impressed with their offense.
Right.
Coming into the season, even with Jamie Newman, I had serious doubts about the Georgia offense, and I still do.
Yes.
Auburn, I got some doubts with Auburn as well. How's that going to pan out? I don't know. Both of those teams are teams that I got question marks by. I had a lot of question marks by both of them to start the season. I might have added some with Georgia last week.
Yes.
Are they great teams? Absolutely, they're great teams. Can they be phenomenal teams that make a run? Yeah, both can. I think whoever wins tomorrow will make a run. I think the other one will start sliding back.
I agree with that. And I tell you what, man, Georgia and Auburn, but Auburn really didn't look that dominant either against Kentucky last week. So we really don't know about Auburn either, but they were able to pull away from Kentucky there late in the game due to some mistakes by Kentucky.
Kentucky has been building for a couple of years. They're a good SEC program. They're not great yet, and I'm not counting Stoops out. I think he can get them to great one day. But Auburn is trying to figure some things out again, with all the craziness and the COVID and off schedules and all this. It's just massive craziness right now. I think offense are suffering more than anybody. So I expect to see Auburn hopefully pick up the pace tomorrow. I don't think tempo is the answer. I think tempo is the escape button when things aren't going their way. Let's run tempo so we might can get a break or catch them sleeping or get a bad matchup.
Right.
I don't think the tempo this year is the secret to Auburn. I think that's the escape, button to get them out of some trouble.
And going back to Georgia on the offensive side of the ball, what other offensive weapons does JT Daniel have besides Pickens? That's the question for me. Is it going to be running back by committee back there or what? Because they were always stacked at running back, and then now it's just kind of what do you do? Same right. Question down there at LSU, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But like I said, what are some other offensive weapons that you think Georgia could potentially have?
Well, they got Zamir White back there. I can't remember what they call him, Zoom or Zena. I can't remember. Something with a Z.
Yes.
Who needs a nickname when your name is Zamir anyway, right?
Yes.
But Zamir White, of course, he was a 5-star. I believe he's had 2 ACL injuries, 1 to each knee. I don't think it's 3. I think it's just 2, 1 to each knee. I think that's correct. But I know he's had some ACL problems. I think they're all kind of waiting for Zamir to kind of bounce back. That offensive line last year for Georgia, it's not going to be remembered.
Right.
And this year's offensive line looks worse. I'm not calling them terrible. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that it's not looking bright. Last year, they kind of pieced it together just enough to win, but they had that terrible home loss to South Carolina last year. I mean, South Carolina just whipped them on both sides of the ball last year. They didn't beat them. They whipped them.
Yes.
On both sides, and did it there in Athens, right between the hedges.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be shocked if we see a letdown game like that with Georgia this year. I'm not.
Yep. And South Carolina has a big game with Florida as well. But are you ready to bring in our first guest? Give us just a second because he's still getting ready. Our first guest is actually going to be Preston Guy, who is a reporter and a freelance guy for TigerBait.com. And he is, of course, an LSU fan from Baton Rouge. So let me go on ahead and give him just a few more minutes because the good thing is before we bring them on, we can actually, see what they're doing before we actually pop them up. So that's a good thing. He said give him just a few more seconds, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and bring him in now.
All right.
Preston.
What's going on? All right.
Hey, Preston.
You good, man?
Going the wrong way. What's going on, guys?
Good. Or how are you doing?
Doing good. Hanging in there, guys.
Could you real quick introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
Yes. My name's Preston Guy. From Baton Rouge, been a writer here for quite a while. Used to write for The Advocate here, covering high school. Last year, Mike Scarborough asked me to kind of take the jump up and get to cover LSU football and football recruiting. And, last year it was just an incredible ride getting my first year to cover LSU football and, 15-0 and national championship. I actually got to go as a credentialed media member for that national championship game. So that was a great experience. But yeah, guys, y'all can, if y'all are interested in any LSU stuff, y'all can definitely always give me a follow at pguy_77 on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, just about everywhere.
Awesome. Well, let me go ahead and start with this. Since you actually said that you went to the national championship, have you actually met Coach O, and what is he like in person?
Yeah, so actually, long time ago, the first day he got hired, I was on the back end of my internship where I was working in the athletic communications department. I worked with the team, the team that does all their social media videos and stuff. I worked with a lot of those guys. And the first time I met Coach O, I was just one of the, lowly interns in the communications department. There was 6 or 7 of us, so none of us were really special. Well, Coach O, on the day he got hired as the defensive line coach, walked over to us interns and shook every one of our hands and asked us about us and had a meaningful conversation. I mean, just not like one of these, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? Okay, cool, I'm Coach O. It was like, where are you from? Oh, really? Oh, just very in-depth. It was almost like he was recruiting people he didn't even need to recruit yet. And I think that's where he's so special as a recruiter, is he's laying these foundations decades in advance, because you never know who's going to be important one day. What I noticed was right after I met him, he went to Verge Osbury, who was the assistant athletic director there. He still is. And he had a son who was maybe 8, 9 years old, something. He said, hey, boy, what you doing? You like school? He goes, nah, sir, I like football. And he says, well, boy, you got to pay attention, get your grades up so I can recruit you 10 years from now. So it's kind of funny how he has this just magnetic personality, where he's always laying seeds to do with people. And let me tell you another situation where we're seeing that come into fruition already. So the Mannings, Eli, Peyton, all them, the narrative in Louisiana is that they hate LSU because they've got, Archie played for Ole Miss, Peyton played for Tennessee, Eli played for Ole Miss, and even Cooper signed with Ole Miss. Well, Coach O used to be the head coach at Ole Miss. And while he was there, he made a very strong impression on guys on Cooper and Archie and all them, and they're good friends. So now we have Arch Manning coming down the pike at Newman High School in Louisiana, a Louisiana boy with that last name Manning, and we actually got footage of him last night at Tiger Bait, and he is looking spectacular as a sophomore there. Well, when I met Cooper Manning last year and talked with him, he had a very favorable impression of LSU and Coach O in particular. He said he really liked Coach O, and it clicked to me that Coach O has been talking to these guys for 10 years because he got hired at Ole Miss in 2006, right? So he'd been talking to these guys for a long time, and that's just the kind of relationships he builds with everyone. So now, what is that, 14 years after getting hired at Ole Miss, he's been, bumping elbows with the Mannings for 14 years now. So he can now, and Arch Manning's only 14 years old. So he's sowed the seeds, and that's kind of what he does. It's kind of how he is. Very magnetic personality.
Preston, quick question.
Go ahead.
Have you been to South Lafourche, Louisiana, where Coach O's from?
Hold on. We got to correct you. Lafourche. South Lafourche Parish. Yeah, no, I've been there. Yeah, I dated a girl from there once upon a time.
Did she speak English?
Oh yeah, that girl. There was no coon ass in that girl, but let me tell you, that is not representative of the parish. It is a lot of the stereotype. Coach O literally, when it didn't work out for him at LSU. He was a player for LSU for 2 weeks or something, and then they wanted to put him on offensive line instead of defensive line. He went down and worked on a shrimp boat down there in Terrebonne. So yeah, it's it's pretty it's a special place.
What's your favorite Coach O story that you can share with us?
Ooh, all right, no, the legendary story. Now, does it have to be one that where I was there, or? Because there's so many. Any of them. Okay, ripping his shirt off. Okay, so when I was working at LSU, I got to talk with one of the guys from Memphis, is where he's from, but he played for LSU. And I'm not going to say his name because he wasn't the biggest Coach O fan. He told me about the time where Tennessee was recruiting him. Obviously from Memphis, Tennessee's on big. And Lane Kiffin and Coach O were both coaching there. He said they went into a special team teams meeting, and they said, here at Tennessee, we get fired up about special teams. Let me hear you. And they call, all the dudes are like, dude, I'm a 4-star, 5-star athlete. I don't care. I'm here to score touchdowns on offense. So they're kind of, well, then they got disappointed. So he said, I'm sorry, guys. Let's try this again. All the coaches left the room. Okay. And Coach O comes storming in, rips his shirt off, Incredible Hulk style, and screams, and then all the guys got hyped. So, Coach O ripping his shirt off is by far, the greatest story out there. Yeah, so this guy actually was, he was a little pushed off by Coach O. He said he was too aggressive, man. Dude be calling me every day. So I went to LSU instead. And then Coach O ended up coming to LSU and coaching him for his last year anyways.
Well, Preston, let's go in and talk college football, X's and O's. What were your thoughts on the week 1 loss at the era of after Joe Burrow does not look so well right now? What were your thoughts on the big Mississippi State victory down at Tiger Stadium last Saturday?
Well, how much time do we have here? You said 3 hours? Oh, no.
Yes.
All the time you want.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts. A lot of people wanted to point at Miles Brennan or the offense. And, one of the things, Miles Brennan threw for 345 yards and completed 58% of his passes. I'm not saying he was spectacular. And for the first 20 minutes of the game, he certainly wasn't spectacular. There's one gaping hole problem that LSU had. And and Mike Leach did what he's famous for, and it just exploited the living hell out of this mismatch. It was that Derek Stingray and LSU had lost 10 starters on defense from the national championship, and they just threw that. They threw fades and crossing routes all day long. I don't think they ran but 6 or 7 passing plays, and LSU just didn't have the Jimmies and Joes. And one of the problems was Bo Pelini, new defensive coordinator, he had just enough success forcing 4 turnovers, including a touchdown, to kind of validate his thoughts and continue calling the way he was doing with man coverage, cover 2 over the top. And it was ultimately costly because 663 passing yards later, LSU was unable to keep up in that high-power matchup. So that's the big problem. There's a few other problems that are correctable. Miles Brennan has got to get rid of the ball. When he got rid of it under 3 seconds, he was 20 for 29 with a touchdown, okay?
Yes.
Beyond that, 2 interceptions, and I believe, let's see, if he's 20 for 29, it just – very low completion percentage. He's got to get the ball out more quickly. Not to mention, he took 7 sacks. So there's some problems on offense, but they're tweakable. I actually liked the play calling. I think they didn't come out and go back to what LSU was before 2019, where they're just running the ball all day. But they just, it wasn't Joe Burrow-esque. And that's the biggest problem a lot of people are going to have is they're going to remember last year, well, Joe Burrow would have ran for that first down. Joe Burrow's playing for the Bengals, so a lot of issues. I think expectations might have been a bit high for LSU, and expectations were way too low for Mississippi State, because I still think that State team's going to win 8 or 9 games this year. They looked good to me. And so, Ray, you remember I talked to you last week. I told you KJ Costello was going to be first team all SEC, and he lived every bit up to that. I'm looking pretty good right about now about that. When I talked to you, I didn't know Derek State Jr. was going to be out, and I'll go as far to say that might have been a difference in the game. Because they had transfers from Nicholls State, which is a small program down there by Terrebonne, that area where Coach O's from, and he just was not ready. They had dudes partially injured. They were just famished at corner. And, I think if you add the best cover corner in all of college football, I could see that being a 10-point swing for sure.
Right. Is it time to hit the panic button on Bo Pelini's defense and his style of coaching just yet?
I'm going to tell people no. Because if you remember back to 2005, Bo Pelini was hired at LSU, and his first game ever was against Arizona State and Sam Keller. It was right after Katrina, and it was a game that got relocated to Arizona State. It was kind of wild. Jamarcus Russell had a game that day. It was pretty wild.
Great game.
What's that?
That was a great game. I remember.
It was a great game, and it was a game with modern replay. LSU loses, but hey, thank God for that. It's kind of crazy to think that was only 15 years ago that we didn't have instant replay like that to overturn calls. But anyways, yeah, it was a great game where Jamarcus Russell led him back on an incredible throw to Early Doucette in the back of the end zone with 30-something seconds left. But he gave up like 500-something yards to a quarterback who never really did anything ever again. But, it was Sam Keller was his name. I think he might have been involved in the lawsuit that killed college football. But other than that, I'm sorry, the college football video game, NCAA football. I'm sorry. Anyways, so other than that, he got his act together, and they ended up having very good 3 straight seasons under him. Of course, his final game coaching at LSU was the 2007 national championship. I don't think he's a quick in-game adjuster. I think he struggled. The first thing he said after the game, he approached Ed Ogeron and told him, I have got to do better. So I think he's going to make some adjustments. I just don't think he's going to be as quick. I think, I think getting the best cornerback in college football will help tremendously. But you know what the doctor ordered for a team that's struggling like that? How about Vanderbilt and Missouri back-to-back weeks? Yeah. The best corner in college football. Calm down, everybody, okay? And in fact, I'm already predicting LSU will struggle this week, but it's Vanderbilt, so it's okay. They're going to win. I'm thinking they win 30-24, and a lot of people are scorching me for that. But I see that. I see this as a team in a weird spot trying to find themselves right now, and that's okay. They'll get there. The other thing I'm going to remind people of, 2017. Y'all know LSU's last loss in Tiger Stadium that was in Alabama? It was Troy.
Yeah, I did know that. It was Troy. Coach
It was Troy.
Yeah.
2017. Now, what you might remember also is that Troy was the peak of LSU tanking. There was 3 straight games, and it was Ogeron's first 3 of his first 4 games at LSU, if I'm not mistaken. They struggled to Syracuse and squeak out like a 6-point win. Mississippi State beat the ever-living Tar. I think we had a viral video about that, actually, if I remember correctly. But anyways, and then they lose to Troy at home, and people are saying, what in the world? Can we please bring back Les Miles? 9-3 ain't that bad. Immediately, the next week, they play Florida, not ranked top 25 team. They beat them, okay? Yeah. Leonard Fournette starts to show out and team's head in the game. And that was the first coaching feat Coach O did that really impressed me, because I know as a former player, and I've watched enough football, when your team suffers a loss like that, most of the time they just tank the seasons and go through the motions. It is very impressive to me that a guy could lose to Troy and go through that stretch and say, cut the nonsense, we got to play football. And he only lost to Alabama down the stretch that season. He salvaged that season. So I look for Coach O to do more of that. This is a similar kind of loss, and I think they're going to pick up the intensity and make some changes. And I mean, ultimately, I have more faith in Coach O than I had in 2017. I think what he's done, he's proven that he's a special coach and will get things back in line. I'm actually, for the rest of my game, for the rest of the year, I'm sticking to the same prediction I had. Now, I had them at 8-2, Mississippi State. I think, okay, take that loss away. They're going 7-3 for the rest of the year. I think just calm down. It's probably not as bad as you're thinking, LSU fans.
I did notice a crazy stat before the game last week. Bo Pelini was 0-2 facing Mike Leach in the air raid when Pelini was at Nebraska and Leach was still at Texas Tech. And I was like, well, that's kind of a misguided stat, because Leach's last couple of teams at Texas Tech had it rolling. And, Pelini was coming into a rebuild situation, a train wreck, if you will, there at Nebraska. And so I was like, I don't know if you can do that. But the crazy thing about Pelini the other day that I was shocked, and you touched on it earlier, Preston, is that he refused to adapt. He's like, if you're going to beat me, you're going to have to throw it over the top. And Leach just kind of smiled and like, okay, we'll do it all day. And
yeah,
that's what happened.
That's the concern, but until I can't imagine a coach ever seeing 663 passing yards. Never before in the SEC has any quarterback ever thrown for 663 yards. I can't imagine he sticks to it. I think he got a little stubborn. Like I said, they held him to 9 yards rushing. Okay, they got a pick six. They got an interception from a freshman corner on man-to-man coverage on the outside. Jacoby Stevens recovered 2 fumbles, and it was a lot of aggressive blitz. They were getting pass rush. It's just so there were mistakes that were being made. Not to mention KJ Costello. I mean, his passing completion wasn't the highest in the world. He was 36 of 60. It was about 60% completion. So I think the biggest problem was that he had just enough success to convince himself that what he was doing was working. And we've already gotten 4 turnovers. Let's just do it again and get that 5th turnover and win this ball game. When he probably should have been, blitzing, pulling off the blitz and running a cover 4, probably, moving to more of a quarters defense rather than a nickel defense like what they ran.
Preston, from the Mississippi State point of view, what folks were talking about after the game is, hey, we didn't play a clean game. We gave LSU 17 points off turnovers, and we still beat them. Mm-hmm. Is that a concern for LSU fans that, hey, your offense didn't do much. The Mississippi State defense gave you 17 points. Or, excuse me, the offense had the turnovers that led to 17 points and gone from there. Well, with that being said, I don't think Miles Brennan is a problem. I think Miles Brennan's going to be fine. That was his first start since whoever knows when. They put up the crazy number, how many days it's been.
St. Stanislaus High School, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I believe it was November of 2015 was his last game he ever started at St. Stanislaus High School, and he played in an air raid system down there. He was a very highly recruited guy. To me, he's taken 2 years to sit back and watch Joe Burrow. And very beginning of the game, it looked like he was trying to be Joe Burrow with his pocket antics and how he was rolling out. And then you just quickly realize you're not Joe Burrow, and that's okay. I mean, I think a lot of the narrative last year around Joe Burrow for a lot of people was that, yes, he's a good quarterback, but, he's in that system. Joe Brady is an offensive guru. He wasn't anything before the system because he was there last year. Well, folks who watched every LSU game, every snap, I mean, they would see, okay, yeah, he completed less than 50% of his balls and struggled to throw for 150 yards. Joe Burrow was a dude, okay? He went out and beat Miami his very first game. That's a top 10 team. And he played outstanding. But it didn't show up on the stat sheet. If you really know what you're looking for, sometimes the stat sheet is leading, okay? Joe Burrow was a physical specimen. He could run. He had a really good arm. And, Miles Brennan is just a step back, especially with his legs. I think Miles Brennan learned that, those runs Joe Burrow was making, it wasn't easy. I mean, Joe Burrow was fast and big and strong, and Miles Brennan got good size. He does not have great feet. So after about 20 minutes or so in the game, he settled down and started playing a good bit better. Not perfect, but better. He made some good throws. Like I said, 345 yards. Yo, 5 years ago at LSU, if we had a quarterback throwing for 345 yards, we would be thinking that, we'll go undefeated. And that's just, I think he'll be fine. All the mistakes somewhat correctable. Like I said, under 3 seconds, 20 of 29.
Right.
Under 2.3 seconds, which was the average in the SEC for week 1, and he was 10 for 10 with 89 yards on those. So he's got to get the ball out quicker, and I think they're going to work hard. I think the good thing is that it's not like Les Miles when people would point out, hey, Coach, do you think the play calling was too vanilla running toss dive 38 times? And he'd say, I think our team just needs to execute with the heart to win. And, he'll blame the one turnover in the first quarter or something. It's like, no, Coach, they recognize, like, what the problems were. Like, no, we should have done better defensive play calling. Yeah, Brennan needs to get Brennan did his post-game interview with Cody Worsham after the game, the LSU reporter, and first thing he comes out and says is, I got to get the ball out quicker. So I think that they recognize the specific problems. I also was the issue. I think maybe you can argue a few more runs would have been nice, but they called routes and Brennan just didn't find the open guy. I mean, there was a lot of plays. Oh, look, there's an open guy on sideline. He's over there. These are correctable issues, but you got to correct them. It's not like this team ran out of talent. Like it's okay. I think they can correct these mistakes, and I have a lot of faith in this team to do them. I don't think they'll do them this week.
What was the coaching staff saying about the 3-3-5 defense that Mississippi State threw at LSU? No one's running the 3-3-5 in the SEC, and it's a crazy, very blitz-happy, super aggressive defense. And let's be honest about the Mississippi State defense. That's now a talented squad, and it's starting a walk-on in the secondary. But yet you saw them all over the field, and no, they didn't make plays all the time. They're not a shutdown defense, but they made plays happen at the right time. Yeah,
it almost made you that's why a lot of LSU fans are clamoring they should have ran the ball more, which I think they should have ran it a little bit more. I don't think they should do it to the point where they're unpredictable, because it's almost like they could have just bullied that defense. The problem is LSU's replacing 4 out of 5 starters on the offensive line, and that offensive line clearly wasn't in a position to bully anybody. I thought they played okay, but they did give up 7 sacks. So, I mean, they got, I think that, that's one of those things where that group is still gelling how to work together, and they weren't really in a position to bully, even with a 3-3-5 stack defense that you can bully them around running the ball like that. I also think that, LSU doesn't want to be a ground and pound team anymore. I think they really want to get aerial with it. And in terms of not taking advantage of, walk-ons back there, I get there was, some walk-ons and stuff, but they also had really guys like Sean Preston there. Great name, by the way. I think that ultimately there were a lot of open players, a lot of open receivers, and we saw that all day long. And it really just falls on Miles Brennan's shoulders. He's got to find them and get rid of the ball, because they're there. They were there. We could see it on the TV film. I'm sure on coaching cameras, Miles Brennan is killing himself, even with 345 yards. It makes you wonder, had they been able to identify these open plays, maybe they could have dealt with a shootout. Maybe so.
Will there be a hangover this week for LSU? I know they're getting Vanderbilt, but do you see something where LSU just comes out and it's just dead the first quarter or even the first half until they figure things out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they have a down week. I do. I've said this a few times. I mean, I think that they're a team trying to find themselves right now. They're trying to find their identities, how they work together. There's so many little things in football that make a massive difference, such as how the right tackle likes to chip on a linebacker with his right guard. And when you're replacing 19 of 22, it'll actually be, I think it's now 18 of 22 now that Stingley's back from last year. When you're replacing that many guys, I mean, there's a lot of chemistry issues out there. And there were clearly some chemistry issues between Miles Brennan and his receivers. They dropped a few balls, and there's a lot of guys being brought in. Issues, and I think LSU, part of it is COVID hit this team particularly hard, because you got all these guys trying to form chemistry, and COVID really got in the way of forming that. Not to mention, a lot of the chemistry that Miles Brennan had formed was between he and Jamar Chase, who might have been the best player in the country. I honestly think he was the player in the country, Jamar Chase. I mean, reigning Biletnikoff winner, and you'd lose him just a few weeks before the season. And these things don't happen overnight. They take snaps. They take time. And I think that while the intensity will be there, I don't think intensity will be an issue. I think they could come out wanting to play. I think they're just going to make a few mistakes. They're going to, try to improve some areas, but the reason they have to improve these areas is because they weren't good at them, so they're going to try to do things that they're not naturally good at, and it's just going to be a learning curve. Although, here's the saving grace, Vanderbilt probably doesn't have very many athletes who would be capable of earning an LSU scholarship. So I think that it's one of those things where, be able to do it easily. But I do think that, we probably see a late score or something like that brings it closer. 30-24. You can call that a hangover if that makes sense to you.
Do you think Vanderbilt can put up 24?
Yeah, I do think they can put up 24. What was his name? Ken
Bills.
Yeah, Ken. Yeah, he went 20 of 29 last week against Texas A&M. Threw for $150. And I understand. Texas A&M. They might not be the best team in the SEC. I mean, I think there was more of a disappointment around Texas A&M than anything. But I mean, can we really say where LSU was last week? That LSU's better than Texas A&M? Like concrete. Could you say that?
So many question marks for both of them right now. I think everybody was shocked to see that score at halftime with Texas A&M, and I think everybody was shocked that Vanderbilt was moving the ball.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone saw Vanderbilt. There was a guy from the Tennessee, and me and Steven talked about this on the show last week. There was a guy from the Tennessee last week that said Vanderbilt won't even score a point in the game, and he's the beat writer for Vanderbilt. I was a little shocked at that, and then, like I said, they hung in there and they made it a game. So I don't know what to expect out of Vanderbilt this year, but they're showing a little hoop spa there on offense, making things happen.
Yeah, I think they can score 24 though. I could see it. Ultimately, a lot of the throws that they made last week, I probably could have made. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but there was a lot of really wide open players. I think Stingley's going to help a bunch, but I think they can score 24, which is, it's roughly half of what LSU gave up last week.
Speaking of throws, the last touchdown Mississippi State scored to Osiris Mitchell there on the right side of the end zone, right corner of the end zone. Osiris wasn't even the open man on the play. Javonte Payton was running down the hash mark. He had his man beat by 7 or 8 yards on that play. I was a little shocked at that. Could you have made that throw?
I'm struggling to remember exactly, but I'm going to say, yeah, I have a lot of confidence in myself.
I like it, Preston. I like it a lot.
Well, Preston, of course, thank you so much for your time. And once again, going ahead and shout out who you work for and how they can follow you one more time, please.
Sure, guys. TigerBait.com, been covering there for about a year. Suffered my first loss as a beat writer last week, so y'all pray for me here. If y'all want to keep up with me, I like to kind of cut up and have a bit more fun than your average beat writer on social media. Y'all go give me a follow. Twitter's my bread and butter. At PGuy_77. If you want any SEC or LSU good stuff, I promise you, no disappointment there.
Hey, Preston, one quick question. Are all the Tiger fans watching the Bengals play? Do you see Cincinnati Bengal gear all over the Baton Rouge now?
I had a Twitter poll about, 3 weeks ago, and I asked people, obviously Saints are right up there.
Right.
And I think we lost his audio.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
In and out.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to finish this. Hopefully you can hear me here. But I asked people, I said, other than the Saints, who is your favorite NFL team this year, right? And choices were Cowboys, Texans, literally every other NFL team, or the Bengals. 77% picked the Bengals.
All right.
Local bar here, walk-ons.
And we lost him again.
Well,
thank you, Preston. Hopefully you can hear us. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we would love to have you on once again.
Thank you, Preston.
Yes. All right. So, man, I got to tell you, that was really, really fun.
I like Preston. Preston seems like a fun guy. We need to have him back.
Absolutely, but like I said, I do want to apologize for the audio and video issues on his end because right now I'm looking at you're 10 out of 10 and I'm 10 out of 10, so we're good to go. All right, so let me go ahead and ask you this. Don't you believe that honesty is the best policy right now?
Absolutely.
All right, well, here's the issue, guys. You know, with it being college football season, unfortunately, we were not able to get Coach Freeze on the show live today. However, Heath and I were able to pre-record an interview, a lengthy interview with head coach Hugh Freeze. So that's the reason that we are going to look different in the interviews. It was not done today. It was done last Monday. But without further ado, here is Coach Freeze and our interview with Coach Freeze. We will go ahead and roll that video now, and then Heath and I will come back and discuss it, and then pick the games for this upcoming weekend. All right, Heath, are you ready for our big interview with Coach Freeze?
Absolutely. Where's Coach?
We are so excited to have Coach Freeze on, and let me go ahead and bring him in here right now. Coach, how's it going?
What's up, guys? I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
Okay, Coach.
Well, good, man. It's been a good weekend here, and excited to do a few interviews today after another Liberty Flames win.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Yes, that was a huge win for you guys.
It really was. I told my staff in pregame when I saw FIU's football team, you know, you have those feelings as coaches where, look, if we were to line up and run the 40 or the vertical jump or any of those things, we're probably not going to fare very well against them. But that's the great thing about football is you don't have to have necessarily the best individuals to be the best team on a given Saturday. So I was really proud of our kids.
Yes, sir. Well, first off, let me go ahead and say happy belated birthday. Obviously, your birthday was yesterday. So let me go ahead and ask this. What is the worst birthday present that you ever received and why?
Oh, gosh, that's a hard one. I can't think of a bad one, man. I guess I'm really blessed. The only thing that's made my birthdays bad is my birthday always falls in the football season. If you lose on Saturday and your birthday's on either that Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, it's you don't quite enjoy it as much. But my wife and kids are pretty good at they know me very well, and they usually stick to getting things that they know I will like. So I've been very blessed by that. They do well, and this one was a great birthday because I had my parents up from Mississippi, and they came and spent the weekend with us, and so it was awesome to have them here.
That's awesome.
Speaking of that, Coach, I'm here in North Mississippi, grew up here in Northwest Mississippi, went to Northwest Community College, such as you.
Go Rangers.
I grew up a county over from you here in DeSoto County. I believe our parents have worked together. I believe your mom and dad are in the school, or were in the school system here in DeSoto County Schools.
That's right. That's
Good
right.
deal.
They're both retired now, but they certainly, you know, my whole life was prior to coaching was spent in Tate, DeSoto County pretty much, and that's where my brother and his family still live, and of course my parents are still in Tate County, so Mississippi is the people there are very dear to me.
Coach, I got to ask you, being a Mississippi kid, growing up in Mississippi, what are some wow moments for you that I'm sitting at a table, I'm sitting in a room with this person right now, having a conversation, kind of beside.
Oh gosh, man! I tell you, when you, you know, obviously, the biggest wild moment was when I was named the head coach at the University of Mississippi, and then what comes with that, man. You know, you're sitting at places like in front of Archie Manning, who was a legend in my family. Growing up there, and then Peyton Manning or Eli Manning. So you get to spend time with people like that, and then it expands to other realms of talking with NFL general managers to probably my favorite, he's become a dear friend of mine now, and this a lot of people don't get wild by a lot of people, but I've become very good friends with Eric Church. who is, he's just, I just love that guy. And he's a real man's man. And, I love his friendship and thankful for people like that. So I had a ton of wild moments, obviously, when you're a head SEC coach, I think you get a lot of opportunities to do that.
All right. Well, Coach, like we talked about earlier, congratulations on being 2-0 and through the first 2 weeks. Pretty much you had a nail biter last week against Florida International. Basically, what do you like about your team, and what can you improve on moving forward?
Yeah, I love the way that we found a way to win last week against, the win at Western Kentucky. Those guys won 9 games last year, returned 26 seniors, and are picked to finish either first or second in Conference USA, and we played really well in that game. Last week we didn't play quite as well,
Right.
but we found a way to win against a very talented team. And so I love that about our team. I think we have what I refer to as grit,
Right.
to where we're just going to play all 60 minutes and see, what the scoreboard says. And so I like that about them. We've got to improve. I think we're doing some really good things on offense. Our numbers are crazy good right now in a lot of ways. But we did not finish drives as well as we have to in the tight red zone. So we've got to improve that offensively. And defensively, the stats look really good with the exception of the explosive plays that we've given up. So we've got to improve there. And special teams, we've got to improve a little bit everywhere.
Yes. Well, as a matter of fact, your defense actually won you the game by getting that sack there late in the game, man. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, they come through at big times, and they held FIU to 304 total yards. And typically, Stingrays, man, you hold a team in this day and time to 300 yards, you feel really, really good.
Yes.
And we just gave up some explosive plays that created, immediate points, and
Right.
we've got to improve on that. But they certainly came through with 4 3-and-outs, and then the big sack there to end the game.
Coach, I wanted to ask you real quick about taking it back to the state of Mississippi, taking it back to the Magnolia. Crazy things are going on here in Mississippi. Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, Deion Sanders. What kind of relationship do you have with those guys, and what do you think the folks in Mississippi should be thinking with those coaches down?
Well, I'm always careful. I will never tell anybody from Mississippi what they should think about their coaches, but I happen to, I like all of those guys. I know Lane probably better than the other guys, but I've had great respect for Mike Leach and what he does everywhere he's been. His demeanor is always kind of attractive. I like listening to his interviews because he makes me laugh and smile sometimes because he just says things that normal coaches don't say, and I kind of respect that about him. Lane and I kind of go back a ways from even my first time when I was an assistant at Ole Miss under Ed Orgeron, and I got to know him through their connections at USC, and we talked a lot of ball while I was there. And of course, Chris Kiffin, his brother's been on my staff at Arkansas State and at Ole Miss, so. I'm closer to Lane, and I think you've got 2 of the brightest offensive minds in the game in the state of Mississippi right now. So that's got to be exciting for the people there.
Coach, I won't ask you about the job vacancy down in Hattiesburg in southern Mississippi, but is your wife happy or shocked at the real estate prices there in Hattiesburg?
I tell people all the time, this world is so crazy, man. We're 2 games into the season, and people are already talking about job openings, and it's I'll say this, man, we love it on the mountain here. They've been so good to us, and I think their commitment level here is pretty phenomenal, and we built a really nice house right on the mountain. I can see it, as I said, in my office at the stadium, so we're very blessed. Obviously, Hattiesburg is a great place also, and
Right.
where my wife and I met and went to school, and it'll be interesting to see how all that turns out. But it's way early to start talking about any coaching vacancies for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I won't ask you about the Southern Miss job as a coach, but as a grad, what would you like to see happen down in Hattiesburg with the new coach?
Well, it's a proud program.
Very
The
much.
memories I have of it is, Jeff Bauer, man, just rolling like 15 straight years, and man, their saying was, anytime, anyone, anytime, any place, and they meant it. And you wasn't sure if you wanted to be on that schedule with what he had going there, and then of course Fedora did a great job there too. And it's been hard to kind of keep up with exactly what's going on and what the reasons are for whatever is going on, and I'm certainly not qualified to speculate on that, but I know that the people there, Mississippi's a proud state, and the people there are proud people, and whether it's State or whether it's Ole Miss or Delta State or Jackson State or Southern Miss, the people there want to have something to, it's the Mississippi people have rallied around usually, unless it's changed since I've left, which I doubt it has, but most communities rally around church and football. And,
nothing's changed, Coach.
And if those two things are in good shape, man, that community is a lot more joy and peace and happiness going on in that community. And I'm, I'd love to see that, return obviously to a place like Southern.
Well, getting back to the Liberty Flames for just a second, obviously you've had 2 games to kind of judge. What is the ceiling for this team under Hugh Freeze year number 2?
I thought going to a bowl game and winning it in year 1 was a remarkable achievement. I just, it's first year of FBS football, and you don't go from FCS to FBS football and all of a sudden have an FBS roster. It just doesn't happen that way. It's going to take you 3 recruiting cycles to get to get FBS players, and so I thought that was remarkable. It was one of the most rewarding seasons I've been a part of in coaching, and now here we are in year 2, and our goal is to go back to a bowl game. And,
right.
Is it attainable? I think so. Our schedule gets extremely difficult. As we progress through it. So who knows? We'll see where that lands. But I do believe that this is a place that can be one of the top group of 5 type programs in the nation in a matter of a short amount of time.
Right.
Once you get 3 or 4 recruiting cycles, the facilities are incredible. The people are awesome. And they have a great vision. They're willing to put the support behind it. So I'm excited about what the ceiling can be here.
Coach, I got a question for you from a coach's standpoint, and I believe you went through this at Ole Miss, but when a new president comes in or a new athletic director, how do head coaches feel? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think it probably is more difficult with a new AD than a new president. Most new presidents, man, they are so overwhelmed with what's going on in the enrollment, the business schools, and with the faculty and all the many things that they have to manage. That AD's voice to that president probably is going to speak the volumes for what the head coach is viewed by the president. So I think it's not usually. I have had that happen at a stop before, just one, and and it was uncomfortable for sure because you have such a good relationship with the guy that hired you.
Right.
And Dr. Dan Jones hired me at Ole Miss, and to this day he's one of the guys I would pick up the phone and call for any kind of wisdom because I just love the guy, and we have a tremendous relationship, and so, I think it's all different. It just depends. But bottom line, if you as a coach are winning and doing right by your program, you're typically in good standing. But it certainly is. You kind of like the people that hire you for sure because you're indebted to them. I love our AD here. Ian McCall is one of the best men I've ever been around. He's a servant at heart, and he leads by example, and he's been great to work with.
This weekend, you actually traveled down to Florence, Alabama to take on North Alabama. Can you kind of break down that game a little bit for us, Coach?
Well, they're coming to the mountains, so we don't have to go there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we look forward to playing at home again. Stingray is hard because they haven't played this year, and I don't like basing my opinion on just what I saw last year. They've got some transfers in. That's a proud program too. I won a lot of football games, and I'm very familiar with those guys because of obviously where I'm from, and I know that they get transfers every year, and this is no different. And so it's kind of hard to say exactly what we expect. It'll be kind of a game of adjustments as we get ready to go, but we're excited to play at home again.
Oh, absolutely.
Coach, I got a quick question for you. Being a coach and being in the profession, I got a good feeling you looked up to Steve Spurrier growing up. Who are some of the coaches that you liked and some of the books that you read of those coaches that you really enjoyed?
Yes, you said it, man. When I was a high school coach, Steve Spurrier was the one I, really, really admired, and I think he's probably, when you have a wow moment, that was one that we talked about earlier is finally meeting him, and not only meeting him, but sitting in meetings with him. And he used to call me advisor guy because I told him I wore a visor because he did. And we have a great relationship to this day also. But, it's funny. People ask me all the time, who influenced me coaching, and I really don't, I kind of I came up with most of our stuff offensively just by watching other people. I never really went and sat down and talked to people or read books. Coach Malzahn and I have been friends for a long time because we were high school coaches at the same time, and we were both having success, and we would end up, at some of those same clinics together, and we kind of hit it off. So we've talked some ball, and Noel Mazzoni, we used to talk ball a lot, but I hardly ever talk ball with anybody anymore. I just, I don't know, man. I just kind of see it from how does something fit in our schematics and our verbiage if I see something that we're not already doing. But, man, we're pushing the envelope about as far as you can, I think, on at least the tempo RPO world, which is what I believe in and has been successful for me.
Coach, you obviously said that you guys moved up a year ago. You currently are an independent. Would you want to stay an independent, or would you ultimately want to join a conference? And if so, which one would fit Liberty?
Yeah, I go back and forth on that. I really do, and really my decision has been I'm going to stay out of it and let our administration handle it because I really don't know, man. There's a lot of neat things about being an independent and controlling your own schedule.
Right.
Look, reality is this. If we can just speak very frankly, there's only on a given year, there's only 5 to 6 teams that can win the national championship.
Right.
That's just the way it is. I mean, on some years maybe you could stretch it to 8, maybe, but I doubt it. It's usually 4 to 6. And then the rest of us are obviously we love the game and we love competing, but you're playing for a bowl game.
Yes. And
if you can be an independent, and it's funny, I'll ask kids in recruiting, hey, who won this conference or this conference, and most of them can't tell you.
Right.
And so, and being an independent, I think there's some advantages to look. Hey, this year we're going to put you in front of Virginia Tech and NC State, and next year we're going to put you in front of Ole Miss and Auburn, and outside of that we get to get a wide spectrum of different conferences that we get to go play against.
Right. Being
an independent. So I think there's some advantages to that. Obviously there's some advantages to being in a conference also. So I'm going to trust our administration to do what's best for us in that.
Coach, we've talked offense. Let's jump to the other side of the ball. Who's the defensive mind that you just respect the most? Who are some defensive coordinators that most guys don't want to face?
Yeah, the first one that jumps in my mind, there were 2. Barry Odom, who's now at Arkansas, who I just have great respect for. And I'll say 3. Dave Womack, who coached with me, I think is very, very brilliant. And then Jeff Collins, I really like his defensive mind too. I thought those guys, and there's a lot of others, obviously. I don't want to leave people out, but I like those 3 people as individuals too. So that probably sways me. But I think Barry and Jeff, I think are heck of defensive coordinators.
All right, Coach.
Now head coaches too, but
yes.
When I faced them, they were coordinators.
I'm going to put you on the spot for just a second. Let's say that we get down to selection Sunday, and all of the conference's teams have at least 3 losses, like Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, Big 10, ACC. Is there a possibility that a team like Liberty or BYU, in your opinion, could sneak into the 14 playoff this year?
I think anything can happen in 2020. Obviously, it's a crazy year, but I think you'd be hard pressed to say
Right.
With the schedules that we have. I think the committee's gonna obviously, those teams that you're referring to, whoever they are, have played a considerable amount of top 25 teams. You would think to be considered. So that's the hurdle that you face. Unless now we go run the table and beat 3 ACC schools and all of that, we'll start campaigning for it for sure. But there's a lot of work to be done before we can do that.
Coach, if you got a day off to watch college or pro ball, and I know college football coaches don't get any day offs during the season, but if you got a day off and wanted to sit down and just enjoy watching football, what coach or what team do you enjoy watching?
Say that one more time, the last part of it.
Oh, what coach or what teams would you enjoy watching?
Oh, man, I enjoy it all. I TiVo every SEC game. And, like, we had a 1 o'clock kick Saturday. And when I got home, man, I started fast-forwarding through all of them, and watching all. I watch offenses mostly of people that are similar to us. And, so I don't know that there's a certain coach. I will say every year you'll find somebody that gets hot or has a great quarterback, like last year, Joe Burrow. And it's hard not to want to watch that to see, hey, man, what are they doing to put up so many numbers and all of that. And obviously Leach put up crazy numbers, last week. So you're watching that one. And, Landon put up some good offensive numbers too. So did Florida. So it's just, I TiVo them all and then kind of look and see, all right, who is very similar to us. And then those are the ones I tend to watch a lot.
Yes. Well, I don't have any other questions. Do you, Heath?
Last question I got for you, Coach. Lou Holt said it best. It's not X's and O's, it's Jimmy's and Joe's that win you ball games. What's the next step for Liberty to move forward other than Jimmy's and Joe's?
Yeah, well, you got to go recruit. I mean, we've got to get our 85-man roster full of FBS players, and I think our systems are good. I think our coaches are good. I love the environment, culture that we're creating here, but you need 3 deep on your depth chart to really compete at the level we want to. So I think for us, the next step is simply that we're going to keep doing what we do offensively. We're going to keep building the culture here around faith and belief in each other, and hopefully doing things the right way. But you got to have some players, and we're not quite ready 3 deep wise yet.
Gotcha. Well, Coach, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, and we hope to see you here later on this season.
Yes, sir.
Stingray, proud of your work, man, to get your body to where you want it to be, man. That's impressive.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we can get you back on before the Virginia Tech game. That would be huge.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye.
Well, buddy, what'd you think about that? That was once again last Monday with Coach Freeze, and we are so thankful that we were actually able to get him on the show. I mean, that's pretty big when you get a former SEC coach and current FBS coach on your show. I really want to thank him for taking time out of his day, and his daughter Reagan actually helped with the communication and setting everything up. So I really want to thank the Freeze family for getting that, to go and for him to join us.
Let's go on and call it. Can we go on and say the future head coach of Southern Miss? Can we put that title on him?
Did you happen to go back and notice in that interview that when you asked him that question, he actually said, "I hope so." If you listened really close, he first goes, "I hope so," and then he started laughing.
Yes. I knew that I knew he was going to dodge the question of years of interviewing coaches, especially SEC coaches at media days and other things. They never answer the question, so I always kind of try to paint it into something where we can get a little something out of them. So when I asked him, I won't ask you about the Southern Miss job, but is your wife happy or sad to see the real estate prices in Hattiesburg? He got a chuckle out of that, which told me a little something, not much. But like you said, Stephen, he followed it up with "I hope so." So asking him also what did he want to see with that job, him being a Southern Miss grad, what would he like to see? And he immediately went to Jeff Bauer.
Yep.
And I think that might be a selling card if he gets an interview with Southern Miss, is that I want to be the next Jeff Bauer. I want to be here for 15 years. I want to be here and build a very long, successful program. And he absolutely can do it.
I want to also say this to all of the Mississippi State fans and the people that are talking about on Facebook, asking about the hookers and all of that stuff. We like to have fun here. We like to be exciting. We like to talk college football. But Heath, you know me. I'm not a controversial guy. With my rants, I didn't get that controversial. I didn't name names. I didn't call people anything. So that's really the reason why we focused on Liberty and moving forward. And we didn't talk about the Ole Miss situation is because I really don't like to be a controversial type person.
Hey, like Lou Holt said, like school in summertime, no class, right? Hey, we all know the downfalls.
Yes.
We all know it. There's no reason to dip down there. I don't like politics in my sports. I don't like talking about the coronavirus in my sports. Let's talk sports. Let's don't talk history. Let's don't talk politics. Let's don't talk corona.
Yes. So that's the reason we didn't mention anything about the Ole Miss situation is because we want this to be a professional show. Because, hey, we're both professionals, right?
Professional?
So, but man, I tell you what, Liberty's going to have a decent season, I think. But man, with those three SEC teams, ACC teams, that gets rough.
It can get ugly. It absolutely can. Going back to Hugh Freeze, I really appreciate him taking the time for us. Absolutely.
Right.
Being here in Northwest Mississippi, a lot of people know his family. As I mentioned in the interview, our parents worked with each other for years. I think I've only met Coach Freeze once, maybe in passing. I just got out of media when he was coming into the SEC.
Right.
But following his career at Lambeth, seeing him some other places, some smaller schools here close to the area, it was always fun watching him move up the ladder in coaching, and to see him make it. And I hope, like I said earlier, hope he makes it back around to the Magnolia. I'd love to see the mustard buzzards get them a freeze warning down there in Hattiesburg.
Right. All right, man. Well, are you ready to start the Week 5 picks?
I'm absolutely ready.
Well, we actually have a game tonight, and I'm actually going to watch it because I believe this is going to be my sleeper team for a potential threat to get into the 14 playoff. Let me go ahead and throw this up here. And I've actually got some graphics for you guys. We have plays, but we've also got new graphics as well and banners for the games. And we're going to start tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time on ESPN2. It is 2-0 BYU hosting Louisiana Tech. And actually, Louisiana Tech and BYU, that's going to be a good game. And BYU's not going to have any fans left in the stadium due to COVID. Brigham Young is a 24-point favorite. Do you feel like that BYU wins that game going away?
Maybe late, maybe getting a garbage touchdown toward the end, the desperation. I definitely think it's a 2-score game at the least for BYU. And hey, if you've never been to the campus of Brigham Young University, I've only been out there once. I caught a Thursday night football game out there years ago. That place is cleaner than Disney World. That is the most beautiful campus right there in the middle of the mountains and everything. But with that being said, no fans being there, yes, BYU, I think, has a little bit of a home field advantage. Not much, but I do expect BYU to keep rolling.
I agree with that. So I'm going with BYU over Louisiana Tech, although Louisiana Tech played really well against Southern Miss 2 weekends ago. All right, next up is going to be, let me see, it is going to be South Carolina, 0-1 at number 3 Florida. This is an 11 a.m. kickoff on Saturday on ESPN, and Florida is a 17.5-point favorite, and that was as of this morning. And let me go on ahead and roll the footage because we have highlights from last year's game. How do you think this one turns out?
Is there any videos of Coach Boom this week? Did he say something he wasn't supposed to?
Not that I know of, but I will actually start, and I feel like Florida is going to pick up where they left off last weekend against Ole Miss. I think they are going to roll South Carolina.
Yeah, I gave you some homework at the last of our last episode, Stephen. Come up with a hashtag from Cal to Cal. Cal Trask to Cal Pitts. I think we're going to be saying that non-stop all season long. I don't think Cal Pitts will have as big a game as he did last week.
Right.
Coach Boone, he might be a little extra emotional this week. I'm sure the players know that he used to be the head coach at Florida.
Right.
I bet you they had a great week at practice. I don't think it's going to matter. I'm taking the Gators.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Okay, next up is going to be, let me find it because I have a ton of these. Aha. Missouri 0-1, which had a okay performance last week against Alabama, is at number 21 Tennessee, which is 1-0. This is an 11 a.m. kick on the SEC network, and Tennessee is a 12-point favorite. Go ahead and give me your thoughts on this game.
Tennessee's defense is not as strong as it looks like it was last year. Again, it's game one. Can they get better? Absolutely. Do teams get better between week 1 and week 2? Absolutely. But that defense just kind of looked a little subject at times. As we talked about many times, and I've got to find the Missouri player. I got to give him credit for it. Called the offense weird. I think it was Sean Robinson, the quarterback from Mizzou. He called it the weird offense that they're running.
Yes.
He said it's just a weird offense. So, can the weird offense make things happen for the misfit team of the SEC? We'll find out, especially with the defense that hasn't been showing me much. But if I had to pick one, how can you go against Tennessee? They got the longest win streak in the SEC right now.
I agree with that. I'm going Tennessee, and I think they actually cover the 12 points. So, another decent game is going to be. Now, we don't actually have highlights of this game, but it's TCU 0-1 at number 9 Texas at 2-0. And Texas barely escaped Lubbock last week. It's 11 a.m. on Fox. And Texas is a 12-point favorite. Any chance that Gary Patterson makes it 4 out of 5 against Texas?
Won't be shocked. I won't be shocked if this game goes either way. Texas has been a letdown year in, year out over the years. Everyone keeps saying Texas is back. Texas is back. Texas is not back. I don't think they're anywhere close to being back. I don't think they'll be back this year. I don't think they're going to be back next year. I don't think they're going to be back in the next 3 or 4 years. Texas is not Texas, and we'll see. With that being said, can TCU beat them? Yeah. Will they? I don't know. Who's the better coach? Who's got the better quarterback?
Right.
So, you know what? For the fun of it, let's go TCU. Well, let's get the Horned Frogs in there.
Okay. All right. Let me see if I have any other. Give me just a second. Aha. Here we go. Okay. Baylor 1-0 at West Virginia 1-1. This is an 11 a.m. kick on ABC, and Baylor is only a 2-point favorite right now. What are your thoughts about Baylor and West Virginia? And remember, this game was a great game last year on a Thursday night. Let me go ahead and roll the highlights for you. And it was a pretty nice game. And I got to be honest with you, I like Baylor going into West Virginia and knocking off the Mountaineers.
They absolutely can. The Baylor Bears sick 'em, right?
Yes.
West Virginia, with less fans in the stadium, does that mean more couches will be burned
Right.
there? The Mountaineers, their fans get a bad rap, maybe deserving. With that being said, I've known a couple of people, especially some Virginia Tech fans, that just do not care for West Virginia fans. But with that being said, I like Baylor. Baylor's kind of in transition, new coach, still trying to figure things out. It's going to be a road test in this crazy times that we're having. But I like road teams this year. I like road teams because of the crowds being out of it. I don't think Mississippi State wins that game last week, especially with those two costly turnovers there in the second half. If you had a full capacity at Tiger Stadium there in Death Valley. But that wasn't the case, and we know what the turnout was. So I'm going to lean with Baylor on this. I think they're the road team. I like road teams. I like underdogs all season long.
Yep, I agree. I like Baylor as well. All right, next up is going to be another Big 12 matchup, and this one is actually going to be at 2:30 on Fox Sports 1. And let me go ahead and roll the highlights on this one, if I can find them.
I like that Houston Everett's out here talking about the games. Houston thinks West Virginia is going to win, and also Texas. So, Houston, you might owe me a dinner after this. I don't know.
All right. So it's going to be Texas Tech 1-1, guns up, at Kansas State, also 1-1, and Kansas State is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm not sure how you get half a point, but they're a 2.5-point favorite. Man, I don't know. Kansas State's good. Texas Tech is good. I've got to go with the senior quarterback. I think I'm going with Skylar Thompson at Kansas State at home.
I got to watch Skylar Thompson play live last year, and I was impressed with him. Skylar Thompson is, again, we talked about this on the show earlier in the week. Skylar Thompson's a great little college quarterback.
Yes.
Will it translate to the pros? Probably not, but he's absolutely phenomenal. I like him a lot. This game's a little bit of a toss-up, as we all know. I do like K-State. I think they're a very fundamentally sound team. Are they going to pull it off? I don't know. Texas Tech had that heartbreaking loss last week.
Yes.
Heartbreaking loss. I mean, you're up by 14 with 2 minutes and 10 seconds left. You score to go up by 14 with just 2 minutes and 10 seconds left in the game. 130 seconds, it's over.
Right.
And they found a way to lose. I think there's going to be some hangover there for the Red Raiders. So,
it's
K-State and Skylar Thompson.
Didn't mean to interrupt you there, but it's like the old coaches say, don't let a loss beat you twice. I think that's what's going to happen this weekend. I got Kansas State.
I'm with you.
All right, next up is going to be another matchup that's actually closer to you, probably within about 30 miles from you. And you talked about this team has not played in almost a month. It is the Memphis Tigers at Southern Methodist University. Let's see, this game is at 2:30 on ESPN2. Memphis is only a 1-point favorite, and they have not played in a month. How do you see the Memphis and SMU game going? And by the way, Memphis is ranked number 25 this week in the polls.
I'm a big believer in the Tigers. I think they're well rested. I think they've been wanting to play. I think they're going to get a chance to shine and show what they can do. I don't think this is going to be a close game. I like the Tigers. I like the Tigers big.
I got you. I agree. I'm actually going. I think they're going to be a little rusty. I like SMU in this one. I'm going with the Mustangs going to 4-0.
You'll be sad.
But how many? Real quick, how many Memphis fans do you know that are around Hernando.
Tons. There's tons of people. I'm probably from my house to the stadium, I'm probably 20, 25 minutes away from the Liberty Bowl.
Do you ever go to Memphis games?
I do quite often. My mother graduated from Memphis, back then Memphis State. I've got multiple uncles and cousins that graduated from Memphis. There's a lot of Tiger blood in the family. But, growing up in this area, it's so funny, and I love it right now, and I like talking about it. Growing up, it was always Tiger basketball, and the football program was an afterthought.
Right.
And so with them having some downtimes in basketball after Coach Cal left, that was the absolute best thing that could have happened to the university, because football started winning. They started putting money toward football, and now you're starting to see some things. And I will not be shocked if Memphis ends up in the Big 12 one day or another Power 5 conference.
Yes.
But, they have had 2 excellent seasons in the past couple of years. They went to the Cotton Bowl last year. Memphis is a growing program. They're recruiting. There's a lot of talent in this area.
Yes.
And some big things are happening. So, people, you hear a lot of coaches talk about, they always thought Memphis was one of those sleeping giants that were on the outside. They are, and they're starting to flex their muscle. They finally got an AD in that saw football as being relevant and as a moneymaker. They went from having the biggest budget in basketball and Conference USA, and then they were the least. They had the smallest budget in Conference USA in football. And so now things have kind of changed a little bit. They're in the American now. They're no longer in Conference USA. But now you're starting to see some things happen. They're spending money with football. They're making things happen with football, and you're seeing a lot of wins with football.
Yes, but you know what really sucks, though, for Memphis is, and pardon my language, I don't know if you're allowed to say sucks anymore or not, but it seems like that they are a stepping stone job. Like Norvell came in, and now Norvell is down at Florida State. Ultimately, if they go to a bigger conference, do you think that ceases?
No. I think that only helps. I think you see several programs that kind of got bumped up here in the past couple of years of joining conferences, and it helped them in recruiting and, of course, their bottom line. Even look in the SEC. I mean, look what A&M's done to their stadium. They knocked the whole thing down and started over again. I mean, it's kind of amazing what they did down there. So, no, I don't see that. Norvell left. There's been several coaches that have left.
Right.
Virginia Tech, they've taken a step back from Beamer ball when Memphis lost their coach. Florida State, they're not off to the greatest start. I mean, we just started the season. But, I think Memphis is going to be a consistent winner for the next couple of years. And I firmly believe if the athletic director, the administration, keep money in football and forget the old way of thinking like, well, we're a basketball school. We have a chance to do this in basketball. Stop. You've got a winning program. You've got something building. You got something big happening. You're starting to get on the national stage. Don't stop now, Tigers.
Right. Now let's move to the 2:30 slate of games, because there are some really good games tomorrow at 2:30. And actually, a lot of people were upset with me because, yes, we're here in Tuscaloosa, and I do have a few Tuscaloosa and Alabama fans that watch, and we didn't show any highlights of Alabama, Missouri. So let's go on ahead and roll the footage of the 2:30 matchup between Texas A&M and the Alabama Crimson Tide. This, of course, was last year when Alabama stormed into Kyle Field and knocked off Texas A&M by a huge margin. Now they come back into Tuscaloosa and they take on a limping Texas A&M team. Texas A&M barely beat Vandy last week. And now they have to come to Tuscaloosa. And then next week they get the chomp Florida Gators. I tell you what, man, it may be panic time if they return to Kyle Field 1-2 after 2 straight losses. But I think if you are an A&M fan, if you lose which is probably going to happen.
It's not probably.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: is how you lose. If they look competitive, people can kind of go, okay, we're moving in the right direction. But if they get shellacked 2 weeks in a row, you got to start hitting the panic button on Jimbo Fisher. Because, in the regular season, if this was a regular season, they would have had Abilene Christian, Sam Houston State, and then they would have had the Colorado Buffaloes from the Pac-12 and Arkansas to get everything worked out before they came to Tuscaloosa. Now it's Vandy, Alabama, and then Florida to start off the season. That is, oh my gosh.
Stephen, I'm going to take it a step further. They struggled with Vanderbilt. They're going to get whooped by Bama this weekend.
Yeah.
They'll be licking their wounds when Dan Mullen comes to town, and we'll take advantage of them. And then the week after that, they got the air raid. Mike Leach coming right after that. They are staring down a serious situation. Matter of fact, before we went live today, I was listening to Pete Thamel and Pat Forty and Wetzel talk about what's going on down there in College Station, and they were talking about how Jimbo Fisher hasn't had that really big win to wow everybody, and they used Mike Leach. Like Mike Leach did it in his very first game in the SEC, game 1 in his first game. And here we are 3 years into it. Jimbo Fisher has nothing, absolutely nothing to show for it. So are you hitting the panic button there at Florida State? I mean, yeah, he took Florida State to the national championship, but it started sinking super fast after that national championship game. And of course, we all remember him leaving his Christmas tree out on the curb as he ran out of town, out of Tallahassee to head to College Station.
Right.
But, I mean, they're in what? Is this year 3 or 4 of that 10-year contract? I mean, there's a lot of years on that contract left. And, if you, heaven forbid, you look bad in game 1, you're going to lose the next 2 weeks, probably the next 3. I mean, what are you going to do? Your hands are tied. I know Texas has a lot of oil, and they have a lot of money down there at A&M in Aggie land. But, are they going to start cutting checks to buy him out of this? I don't think they can this year.
I'm actually going Texas A&M in the upset. No, I could do that with a straight face. No, I think Alabama rolls. But I will say this, though. I do think that the Aggie defense is going to be better than what they faced over at Missouri last week. So that could be rather interesting. And Alabama was not good on first down last week. And they were in second and long and third and long. And if that's the case, then the Aggie defense can tee off and put pressure on the Alabama quarterbacks. And then it could get interesting. But really, I think this game will be interesting, kind of like Ole Miss and Florida was for a half. Maybe, but then Alabama just pulls away in the second half.
Well, I will say this, and let's give Texas A&M some credit here. We beat them up pretty bad just then, but let's look at this part of it. You're prepared for this crazy season, and I think A&M kind of knew that they had the game. They could out-athlete Vanderbilt in game 1. So I got a feeling they spent a lot of extra time preparing for Alabama.
Right.
I think they spent lots more extra time preparing for Alabama, and then Vandy kind of snuck up on them a little bit. Now, of course, they still won the game.
Yes.
Also, these are the games that Kellen Mond actually shows out. We talked about that on the show earlier in the week, that Kellen Mond, he will keep his team in all the games, but he also keeps the other team in the games too. He's always going to give you 2 or 3 picks in a game. So this is the kind of game that Kellen Mond actually shows out that, he always keeps his team in the game. So, Kellen Mond's going to be there. They've been preparing. A&M's been preparing for ever since practice started this year. I got a feeling they're preparing for this Bama game. So, will A&M make this a game? I think they will at the beginning. I really do. But hey, as I coined my famous phrase, if the Aggies don't win the coin toss, they probably won't win anything else for the rest of the day.
Let me roll this too, because I know we have some Alabama watchers on here right now. And so this is something new that I thought I would do. And starting next week and the future weeks, I may actually start doing one for every SEC game But let me roll this. And an Alabama football forecast. What would it be without, kickoff is at 74 degrees, 69 by the end of the game, and sunset tomorrow is at 6:32 p.m. It is going to be sunny there in Tuscaloosa. That is the weather forecast. And tomorrow night, the low is actually going to dip down here to 49 degrees. So it's going to be really chilly once that sun goes down tomorrow for the Alabama game here in Tuscaloosa.
And I think the defense will start heating up. I think the longer that game goes on, the better the Bama defense will be in that one.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think the starters will get more playing time. Not the starters, the backups will get more playing time by the end of that game tomorrow.
Yes.
So who are you taking, Alabama?
I would take Alabama to prom if they would let me. I mean, yeah, taking Alabama all night on that one.
All right, here's an interesting little matchup. This one is going to be, now I don't have any video from this game because the last time North Carolina and Boston College played was 2013. So I really didn't want to put that long a video, in here because none of those players are still relevant, to this game. But it's number 13, North Carolina 1-0 at Boston College 2-0. And North Carolina is currently a 14-point favorite, 2:30 tomorrow on ABC.
I absolutely like Mac Brown.
Yes.
I like old, salty football coaches. I think they're hugely successful for a reason. And you don't see too many coaches over the age of 60 still in the game. You don't. It's, coaching is a young man's game. But to see Mac Brown out there and making things happen, yeah, I like the Tar Heels. I like them to win. I like them to win that game big and going away.
I agree because I've not watched Boston College at all this year. I have no idea what to expect with them, so I'm going with the easy pick there, North Carolina, and I think they cover the 14.
Hey, Stephen, a little fun fact. Here's a question for you.
Okay.
What coach has the most college losses of any coach in the history of football? Any guesses?
Mac Brown.
His brother Watson, the offensive genius. And Watson Brown's not a bad coach. He just took some crazy jobs. ESPN did a phenomenal story a couple of years ago on Game Day. I'm sure that's on YouTube somewhere. But Watson Brown used to give SEC defensive coordinators massive headaches. They hated facing him back in the 80s and 90s. But, yeah, let's go on to the next game.
All right, let's go to a 3 o'clock game. Let me go ahead and roll the highlights. And this one is actually going to be at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. And it's actually, this game could be pretty fun to watch. It is going to be Ole Miss at Kentucky. And this, of course, was the last time that they met up in Lexington. And it was a pretty good game for a while there. And you're about to see here in just a minute that Tiamu was the quarterback for Ole Miss. Let me go ahead and pop the graphic here. Ole Miss is 0-1 and Kentucky is 0-1. But Kentucky, believe it or not, is a 6-point favorite. Do you like Kentucky or the Rebels? I'm
not a gambling man. I'm not. But Vegas, they know things that we don't for a reason. They always shock us. When I see or hear lines and people talk about them, I'm like, what? Really? So that line shocked me when I heard it. And I just heard it, I believe, yesterday. And I was a little bit shocked when I got the news on it. That Kentucky defense is solid. It is. It's a very good defense. They gave Auburn a little bit of fits. And let's face it, with Kentucky, the defense was not running at peak efficiency last week. They were rusty, just like most of the teams in the country that were playing their first game last week were. I expect that Kentucky defense to be better tomorrow. I expect that Kentucky offense to be a lot better. I expect a big game out of Josh Ali for Kentucky, the wide receiver for Kentucky. I expect a big season out of Josh Ali this year. With that being said, man, that Ole Miss defense is really bad. Yeah. It's, you got the lane train. Well, that defense is a train wreck. Right. I know we said that earlier. I don't know what to expect out of this game, but I do expect it to be a good game. I expect it to be highly entertaining. If it gets into a shootout, that won't shock me. If it's a shootout, that goes in the favor of the Rebels massively. But I think that defense is going to confuse a lot of things for Ole Miss. And we'll see. Will Lane Kiffin be able to kind of catch two teams on their heels 2 weeks in a row? Yeah. But, I heard a crazy stat. I think it's since 2015 or maybe I can't remember when it was, but Ole Miss leads the nation of scoring 30 points a game and still losing. And I thought that was just a crazy stat. I heard that on the radio here this past week. Actually, I take that back. I heard that on a podcast. Steve Robertson from the Boneyard actually mentioned that stat earlier this week. So with that being said, will Ole Miss score 30 points? Yes. Will that guarantee a victory? Probably not. But I do expect a shootout in this game, and I would not be shocked if it goes the Rebels' way. If I got to pick a game or pick a team to win this game, I'm picking the Rebels.
I'm actually going different. I'm going Kentucky at home. I think Terry Wilson has a bounce-back game after his fumble last week that ultimately turned the tide for Kentucky in that game. I think Mark Stoops will have his team ready to go, and I like them to get their first win at home in 2020.
Fair enough.
All right, next up is going to be, now you're going to laugh at this one. Let me, bug. I'm bug. It just came by me and buzzed me. Anyway, live TV, man, you gotta love it. All right, next up is going to be, where is it?
Is there a bug in the system there, Stephen?
There is a bug in the system. Give me just a second. Here we go. Okay. This was actually a pretty good game last year. It was Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky. This game, of course, was on Stadium. But unfortunately, this year, Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee are both winless. And now, of course, we have to have somebody win tomorrow. This is at 4 p.m. on ESPN3. Western Kentucky is a 7-point favorite. Although last Friday night, Middle Tennessee, I thought that they started to get their offensive game rolling. I'm actually going Middle Tennessee at home, getting their first win of the 2020 season with Asher Allen at quarterback. What are your thoughts on the Hilltoppers versus Middle Tennessee?
Oh, Stephen, I'm going to take us to a movie review. Did you ever see the movie PCU with Jeremy Piven and David Spade back in the 90s?
No.
Watch that. Everyone, go home and watch that. One of my favorite movies. PCU stood for Port Chester University, but it was all about the political correctness of what's going on in the world. Jeremy Piven had a great line. They were playing Frisbee football, and he goes, "Nobody wins because they're all losers." Yeah. I put that on this game. Both teams are winless. Stockstill at MTSU, he has a crazy contract. It's a big contract. And his team was the best team in the state of Tennessee a couple of years ago when he got that contract, and they wanted to pay him to stay there. Man, that's a massive buyout on that deal. And MTSU has not looked good. Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, I mean, can you play worse than your mascot? I don't know. Yeah. But you know what? I got some friends that are MTSU folks. I have not done a single bit of research on that game. I have no idea. Give me the Blue Raiders.
Yes, I agree with that. Because I don't know if you watched last weekend when they took on UTSA, Middle Tennessee versus UTSA. But, Middle Tennessee towards the end of that game really got things rolling on offense, and I like for them to keep it up in, week 4. For them.
I just thought about this, Stephen. There's a couple of guys, Travis and Fez. They used to have a show called the Dandy Boys there at MTSU. They are some great SEC fans. They know the game inside and out. We might have to bring those guys on the show, but they're MTSU grads. So for Travis and Fez, that pick's for you. Blue Raiders all the way. Win number 1.
Hey, we have to stop the picks right now. because I don't know if you saw the comment, but we got to put this up there. Go
My
ahead.
wife never watches. She never watches anything that I do. Now she's going to watch.
Go ahead and tell people who that is.
That is my lovely wife, Julie. Julie and I have four great kids. We're all over the place. Yesterday, I think the entire city of Hernando helped us babysit our kids. Let's see. We had my daughter wants to be a feature twirler, so she had twirling lessons, baton lessons out in Bartlett, Tennessee. She had the baby, which is 2. Then our 4-year-old had a t-ball game that I had to coach in last night. John, I had to drop him off. My son, he's 9. I had to drop him off at football practice. And so I had someone watching him at football, bringing him to baseball. And then I had my daughter at t-ball. Then I had another parent watch her during baseball until Julie could get there, which she wasn't able to. It was crazy. So I've got 1,000 kids. I have the city of Hernando, which is a wonderful place to live, watching after us. Some great people here, some great friends and family. But my wife, of all people, Julie, telling me to smile. I'll take that in consideration.
Absolutely. Well, man, I'm surprised that you're able to do a show with all that, man. I tell you what, that's whew.
My wife, she might put up another remark now.
All right, next up is going to be the 6:30 slate of games, and I think we will start with the one that we were talking about earlier with Preston. It is the both teams are limping into this game. It is going to be the LSU Tigers traveling to Vandy, and this was actually footage from last year. And here you'll see in just a minute, they were playing at Vandy last year, and unfortunately for LSU, they've got to go back to Vanderbilt this year. However, Vanderbilt has said that there will be no fans in the stadium, period. Which team wins this game? Because both of them are limping into this game at 0-1. LSU, of course, losing to Mississippi State, and Vandy looking a lot better, lost to Texas A&M last week.
What? LSU and Mississippi State already played? That happened?
Yeah, week 1.
Hey, let's give a shout out to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt never loses the uniform battle, right? Vandy's got some great uniforms. Man. Third verse, same as the first. If Vandy doesn't win the coin toss, I don't think they're going to win anything all day. I think there will be a hangover from LSU, but if LSU comes out mad and firing on all cylinders, that's going to get nasty. And props, I know LSU lost a lot of starters off last year's team, but I remember watching that LSU Vanderbilt game last year, and I remember watching the offensive line dominate. And there was one play where one of the offensive linemen, I believe it was the left guard, not only did he blow his man up, he went out and got him a second time and then went and got the backer and cleaned his clock. I mean, they were playing street ball out there. Do I expect LSU to out-athlete Vanderbilt tomorrow? Yes. Will it get extra physical and dominating? It can, and I expect it to. Tigers all day. And I got a little bit more faith than our guest Preston. I think the Tigers win big.
Yep, I agree. I like LSU, but I think Vandy, with that defense, can keep it close because they actually did a pretty good job of forcing turnovers against Texas A&M.
Hey, Stephen, I heard a terrible joke. Actually, it's not terrible. It's actually funny. I heard that the CDC went and talked to Vanderbilt and Ole Miss about not having any fans in the stadium and playing in front of no fans since they did it last year. So, Vanderbilt keeping that trend up this season.
Yes, I agree. All right, next up is going to be, let me go ahead and let me hide this. All right, next up is going to be, and let me see if I can pull this back up for you. Heath, go ahead and spitball just for a second, please.
Well, see, I noticed, I believe that was Houston that was asking me about my shirt. My wonderful mother-in-law, Big Mama, got me this Padre shirt. I briefly lived in San Diego years ago. Sadly, I was out there in 1997. 96, Ken Caminiti with the MVP that year for the Padres. And then, of course, 98, They go to the World Series and lose to the Yankees. I was there in '97. They finished dead last in the NL West that year. But I caught a lot of those games, lots of those games. It was a fun time out there. Let's see. Robbie Paulson talks about they've changed the crowd thing at Vandy. They're going to allow a percent of the students. And I will say this, props to Vandy for doing that. I get really upset with these athletic directors that are not allowing all the students to come to the games. I think students should come before the big boosters. I think the students should be there. You only have a couple of years in college, and the college wouldn't exist, or the football team wouldn't exist without the college. Students should always be the first priority over the big money donors, the season ticket holders, everybody. I like that Vanderbilt is letting the students in. Absolutely.
Thank you for that clarification, because I honestly did not know that, because nobody's actually, I hadn't heard that publicly. So thank you for that comment and clearing all that up. So, all right, I could not find what I wanted to. I wanted to put up the graphic of Southern Miss and Tulane from last week, but I could not find it. But let's go in and pick this game because it is we may have some Southern Miss fans watching, a.k.a. my friend Heath Hinton down in Southern Miss, and it is Southern Miss 0-3 on the road at North Texas, which is 1-1, and surprisingly, North Texas is only a 1-point favorite in this game. Do the Southern Miss Golden Eagles finally get their first win of 2020, Heath?
I hope so. I really do. I think you're going to see a new coach come in no matter what happens this year in Hattiesburg.
Yes.
If the interim and his staff end up winning 4 games, do they keep them? I don't think so.
Right.
We've already covered who we want to see there. We hope it's Breeze coming in. I can't pick the Eagles just yet. Eagles have laid down over and over and over. I'd love to come back on Monday and say I was wrong and Southern Miss to the top, but I just can't pick the Eagles because they show so much quit. They just show that they don't want to be there. They're going through the motions. There's no fire. There's no anything, and I'm ready to see. Old Southern Miss football. I really am.
Yes. I've actually got to go. I got to agree with you. I'm going with North Texas and the Mean Green, but I'm really shocked by that 1-point favorite over an 0-3 team, and especially how bad they looked against Tulane. Aren't you?
Very much. Again, we talked about it earlier. Vegas knows things that we don't. What they are, I don't know, and I don't try to figure them out.
Yes.
Again, I got too many kids and too much to do. But with that being said, there's a reason why Vegas set that line there.
Right.
I would love for Southern Miss to sneak down there. Football is always about matchups. It really is. It's always about matchups. And I think that's what makes some coaches and their schemes so successful. And they always have success wherever they go because they can get the matchups.
Right.
I don't know what the matchups are tomorrow with the Mean Green and the Golden Eagles, a.k.a. the Mustard Buzzards.
Yes.
I don't know. But until Southern Miss shows some fire and some fight, I can't pick them.
Yes. And by the way, that game is not on TV. It may be online, Conference USA, but that game does kick off at 6:30 if anybody is interested in listening to it, if you are local in the Mississippi area. And do they cover Southern Miss games up there where you are on the radio or no?
Every now and again, yeah. You can find it somewhere on the AM radio.
Okay.
Every now and again. I really miss that the Memphis and Southern Miss used to have a great rivalry.
Yes.
It was a wonderful rivalry and a brutal. They used to call it the Black and Blue Bowl.
Yes.
There were some great games that no one got to see.
Right.
Just some slugfest. And usually Southern Miss got the best of those games. But, there's Southern Miss fans around here, and I like them all. Actually, I like most Southern Miss fans. I got some of the family as well. But until that football team shows some fire, I just can't buy in. I just can't.
Okay, man. We got 2 games left. Let's go on ahead and talk about this other game before we go to what I think is going to be the game of the week this year. Let me go on ahead and roll the highlights, and I want you to talk about this game first.
All right. Man, Arkansas showed a lot last week. Arkansas is rebuilding. Arkansas has already kind of tipped their hand that they're not going to let the big play over the top. They're going to make Mississippi State throw underneath and challenge things. I think Callan Hill is going to have a massive day tomorrow. I think Callan Hill easily rushes for 100 yards. I would not be shocked if Callan Hill had over 200 purpose yards and even split half and half, 100 in rushing, 100 in pass or in receiving. I think that's going to be a big day for the Mike Leach offense. And here's the crazy thing, Stephen. What would be considered an average day if Costello came out and had an average day? I mean, I would say that's 380 yards passing.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that would be an average day. So I'll say this. If Mississippi State gets up by 14, I think that game's completely over. I don't think Arkansas has the firepower. I don't think Felipe Franks has the protection. I don't think he has the playmakers around him. And I don't think that I don't think Arkansas can keep pace. And there was another thing. Someone asked earlier about the will Leach run it up? Leach doesn't run it up. He puts in subs and he keeps running his offense. He doesn't start running the ball. So I expect that. But I think Mississippi State easily puts up 50 points tomorrow. I have no idea what that Arkansas offense can do, but I know it's not 50.
Yes. Here is the highlights that we were not able to run on Wednesday of the Arkansas-Georgia game. And the reason I want to show this is literally because you see right here, first play, what an amazing throw there by, Felipe Franks. Let me take that off. That was a beautiful pass. Let me go ahead and it's going to show again in the replay. Give it just a second. Beautiful pass right over the shoulder into his arms for a touchdown for the Hogs. But then you see on the next highlight, give me just a second. Right here, he throws a pick.
Yep.
And you're sitting there going, okay, well, you were so perfect on the throw before, but this one you actually kind of threw, and you'll see here in just a minute that he kind of threw it in front of the receiver and it got tipped. So the only thing that I can think of is good Felipe, bad Felipe. And he's kind of like Kellen Mond. He's going to make his plays, but he's also going to keep your team in the game as well. I honestly feel like Mississippi State is going to roll in this football game.
I'd just dare you to find someone that doesn't think that. I even think Arkansas fans think that.
Right.
Especially after last week. Going into the season, I think they all looked at Mississippi State like, oh, they're in transition. They're on the way down. We're on the way up. After last week, I don't think you can find an Arkansas fan who's like, oh, yeah, we've got a chance in that one. I think once the game is up, when State's up by 14 points, I think it's over then.
Yes.
I think it's completely over.
By the way, I will say, though, that if I'm an Arkansas fan, I am encouraged by this one fact. They have not won an SEC game in quite a while, but last week they were up on Georgia at the half. So that is some positive moving forward.
What is it, 2017, I think is the last time they won a game, an SEC game, that is. There'll be I remember some long losing streaks in the SEC, almost all the teams. Mississippi State had one there at the end of the Jackie Sherrill era, in the beginning of the Croom era. I think they went 0-16 until they finally broke that streak. So, it's crazy to think about where Arkansas is right now. 2017. I know that wasn't too long ago, but think how much life has changed since 2017. Arkansas, are they getting it together? Yeah. I was a little skeptical of Sammy Pittman being the head coach. I'm starting to believe now. I think he got things going in the right direction. I really do. Does he have all the right answers? Only time will tell. But
Right.
Yeah, tomorrow, hey, let's say it one more time. If Arkansas doesn't win the coin toss, they're not going to win anything for the rest of the day.
That's right. All right, and real quick, let's go to the game of the week.
Yes. Deep South, oldest rivalry. What do you think about it, Stephen?
I'm going to roll the highlights real quick and give me just a second. As you can see, Gus Malzahn. And, Georgia had to fight off a really incredible rally from Auburn last year. Unfortunately, Auburn was not able to win that game. We're watching the last sequence of plays in that football game. But ultimately, I'm just not sold on the Georgia offense. I'm actually going a little bit of an upset. I think a top 5 team loses this weekend. I think number 4 Georgia loses at home to the War Eagles of Auburn.
It'd be hard to argue with your thought process there. I'll throw a couple of things at you, Stephen.
Okay.
The road team is usually very successful in this contest, always has been throughout history. But guess what? History has nothing to do with tomorrow's game.
Yes.
I think that Georgia has massive issues on offense. And I said that back at the end of the season last year. I was like, Georgia had problems last year on offense.
Right.
And I think they're only going to get worse this year. People are like, oh, well, we're bringing in so-and-so, and we've got this, and we've got that. And no, you don't have anything. Georgia is struggling on offense. You know, of all the great things Kirby Smart's done there, he has made the offense worse, tons worse. Georgia is not getting better on offense, and they're not going to start tomorrow. Now, Auburn showed me a lot of question marks last week. I am not sold on Auburn at all. Not sold on them a bit. Can the Georgia defense keep them in this game tomorrow? Yes, I expect that. I expect that to be a great game. But, again, if Auburn gets up by 10 points, this game's over. Georgia cannot come back.
Right.
Their defense and special teams will have to do big things to get them in this game or to get them to win this game. Can they do it? Absolutely. That Georgia defense can do anything. But I expect Auburn's offense and Gus Malzahn, we're going to see trick plays. We're going to see tempo. And, man, I expect to see Auburn to win.
I'm sorry. I need to do it like this because Gus is always, come on, let's go. He's always like, let's go. And you're going to see a lot of that tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, I don't see.
Excuse me, tomorrow night, not tomorrow. Tomorrow night.
I don't see. Again, I don't see Georgia. I mean, everyone's talking about, we get JT Daniels. JT Daniels is going to be a very fine quarterback. He is. I believe that. You don't get scholarship offers to USC being bad quarterbacks. That's a quarterback factory out there at USC. It always has been. But, there's a lot of rust. He's coming off injury. What was the Bennett kid's name? Stetson Bennett. Well, I can't even remember. Whatever, Bennett the Fourth, whatever his name is. It sounds like a frat boy to me, right? That's like the ultimate frat boy name.
Yeah.
I expect to see him tomorrow. I expect to see him more than one series tomorrow. I just don't think JT Daniels can come from injury and not ready and be cleared to come in and play the whole game. I just don't see it happening. So if Bennett gets hot, Georgia can easily win this game.
Right.
If JT Daniels is not rusty, absolutely, Georgia will win this game. I just don't see those two things happening. Georgia needs way too many breaks on offense to win this game, and I just don't see it. If defense gets them 2 scores, if there's a scoop and a score and a pick six, okay, I'll tell you Georgia's going to win, but I just don't see that happening.
So you're going with War Eagle. You agree with me?
Absolutely. I think the Gus bus is going to be full, and I think that Auburn's going to move forward in that.
And real quick, do you think it is time to push the panic button for Kirby Smart and Georgia if they lose this game?
No.
Okay.
No. Kirby's got to take his hands off the offense. He has to just get out of the room completely. He needs to find somebody to come in and run it. Maybe like a head coach at Liberty if he's not going to take the Southern Miss job. But have someone come in and
Yes.
and run that offense. Kirby has made a great living being a defensive coach, but he's starting to fall into the likes of Will Muschamp. He really is. He's showing that his teams are going to be great defensively, but what are they going to do on offense?
Right.
Look what Nick Saban has done. He has kind of taken his hands off of it and stepped away. I never thought Nick Saban would do those things. I never thought Nick Saban would even have a passing offense. I thought he would never recruit a passing quarterback. I always thought he'd go with a game manager. You've got to do that. And I think that's why they went out and got JT Daniels. I mean, he's not a game manager. The kid can throw the ball. He can spin it. I expect to see Georgia get better on offense. But, I mean, after George Pickens, I mean, who are the best receivers out there? Who are the best playmakers? There's questions with Zamir White. There's questions at receiver. That offensive line is all questions. There's questions at quarterback. How can Georgia win if they're not going to score any points? I just don't see it.
Right. All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for the Stingray show. Do you have anything else to add, Heath?
Padres, let's go win it. Slam Diego. Let's see that. Hey, first time in 14 years the Padres have made the playoffs. So hopefully after tonight they move on to the second round. Anyone but the Dodgers, right?
I agree with that. Well, man, we want to thank you guys for staying here and watching the Stingray show. We went a little bit long today, but of course we had long interviews with, Preston Guy and Coach Hugh Freeze. And both of these will be online, so you can go back and watch any of the interviews that you missed or any of our picks or discussions or anything like that. So once again, we hope that you have enjoyed this. And actually, Heath, the internet got better as the show went on, did it not?
Hey, where we started with the show, we can only get better, right?
Yes.
It's a work in progress. We keep saying it to each other every day.
I agree with that. Well, guys, we want to thank you again for staying tuned and being loyal to the Stingray show. And we hope you have a great weekend. And as always, enjoy your college football. And we will see you right back here on the Stingray show on Tuesday to recap week 5 and week 2 of the SEC.
Shout out to my wife. I'm coming home, Julie.
All right. You guys have been wonderful. And we will see you guys next week. Sorry.
See you, Steven.
Hit the wrong button.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry